truly a battle of two of the top programs in the country, and it's nearly game time in Bozeman. But before we get to kickoff, of course, we got to check in with our guys at Bobcat Stadium. Spencer Martin, Austin Parr standing by with more on what to expect from this afternoon's contest.
Welcome to Bobcat Stadium. So great to be here in Bozeman, here with Austin. As you see, North Dakota State just came out here onto the field getting warmed up, and this is a primetime second-round matchup to see two national powers facing off this soon.
I think it's the matchup that everybody wanted to see. A rematch of the 2021 national title game, the perennial powerhouse in the FCS, the North Dakota State Bison, a chance for Montana State maybe to get a little bit of revenge from a couple years ago.
Yeah, maybe get almost a monkey off their back, right? And you look back, North Dakota State hasn't been here since 2010, and then since then, well, they're trying to make it to the quarterfinals for the 14th straight year.
Insane.
Of course, beat Montana State 4 straight times, and I think you've heard it in Coach Vigen's voice a little bit. They know that they need to be physical and continue to close that gap here today.
Well, that's the biggest thing. Danny Louis Lekepe and both Mark Weir on the offensive line both said this is going to be one of the most physical matchups they've ever faced. It reminded them a lot of that Week 2 matchup against South Dakota State, where they actually won that battle in the first half, but couldn't finish that job. They're looking to finish the job today. The biggest difference, though, is that 2021 national title game was on a neutral site. North Dakota State hasn't been here since 2010, and as we know, home field advantage, a big-time advantage in general is what it is. I mean, people win in the playoffs when they have home field, and, of course, the Cats are at home today. 26
straight wins has to mean something, right? But, yeah, I mean, both these teams their seasons have mirrored each other. Both have 3 losses, but you look at those 3 losses, and you're thinking, those are 3 pretty good losses to have against very good teams. You spoke with Coach Vigen, of course, earlier this week. Here's a bit more of a breakdown from Austin on tonight's matchup.
Get your popcorn ready. Quite possibly the best second-round FCS playoff matchup takes place this weekend right here in Bozeman. After beating Drake 66-3, North Dakota State will travel to Bobcat Stadium for a rematch of the 2021 national championship game. The Bison boast one of the top rushing attacks and scoring offenses in the entire FCS, and it all starts with their dual-threat quarterback, Cam Miller.
Really efficient passer, really accurate. Can make the plays with his feet when the pass isn't there. And then in the quarterback run game, between him and Peyton, they're getting a lot of mileage out of both those guys. So, a steady improvement by him, going from, I would say more of a game manager in 21 to now I think he's clearly, he makes it go for them.
Let's not forget that Montana State has one of, if not the best rushing attack of their own, paired with the top overall scoring offense in the entire nation. This might be one of the toughest and most physical opponents the Bobcats have faced, and they know that this will be an all-out battle for 4 quarters.
Our offensive line, from a physicality perspective, has to be ready for a dogfight. And has to to be ready for that next wave of guys to come in. They're going to play 8 guys for those 4 positions. Not as much rotation at the linebacker position, but a little bit, and everything we can to get up to that second level and not allow those backers or safeties to be free hitters. We want to be able to do.
I feel like we're just going to have to be physical, just like every other week. They play a hard brand of football, so we just got to match it.
The biggest question for the Bobcats coming into Saturday is why doesn't the first-team all-conference quarterback Sean Chambers see the field more? That question doesn't have a definitive answer, but come Saturday, Bobcat Nation may see some big changes from the Cats signal caller.
All right, so Austin, you alluded to it a little bit, but we know both of these teams are great rushing the ball. Quarterback play can be really important, and you have a lot of dynamic guys out here. You mentioned Cam Miller for the Bison.
Well, it starts there. He is their engine. Just like Brent Vigen said, more of a game manager in 2021. Now he's a superstar. I mean, he is literally the engine that makes this team go. They have a couple of dual-threat quarterbacks, one that comes in and rushes the football as well. A lot of rushing touchdowns from him, but he can also throw the ball really well too for North Dakota State.
Yeah, Miller's thrown for over 200 yards in 3 straight games. He leads the country in completion percentage right now. So it's funny when you break down that game, when you were looking at it and digging the numbers and listening to Coach Vigen, you had to be thinking sounds like Montana State, right? I mean, the parallels between these programs coming from that North Dakota State tree are kind of crazy.
Well, it's been interesting this year for Montana State. We've seen a lot of the dual threat quarterbacks with Tommy and Sean at home, but we haven't seen a lot of Sean Chambers on the road, which is the biggest question for Bobcat fans is why isn't the first team all-conference quarterback on the field tonight? You got to assume he's got to be on the field a lot today.
And maybe even opening up the playbook a little bit more through the air. We'll have to see. I mean, the other key that we saw is starting fast. Right. You talked about Coach Vegan. I looked at the Bison. They've scored in 11 or 12 games on their opening drive, 9 of them being touchdowns. So for them, getting to a fast start is important as well. But what have you seen from the Bobcats when they do score on those opening drives? How does it change everything for them?
Well, I think it gives them confidence. I mean, not only on the offensive side, because everybody wants to talk about getting that touchdown on the opening drive, right? If their defense can come out and stop North Dakota State on their first opening drive, how much confidence do you think that gives to the offensive line and the quarterbacks and the wide receivers and even the tight ends to get that, get that jolt that they need? Because as we've seen, they've kind of started slow in those big-time games that they've lost.
So this Bison team didn't get a seed, but Montana State fans are still sitting there at home thinking, we've lost 4 times in a row. I don't feel good about playing the Bison today. For Montana State to get a win, what do they need to do?
Well, it's the old adage that nobody wants to talk about, right? It's the battle in the trenches. It starts up front. Offensive line, defensive line. They've got to get physicality and get pushback on the North Dakota State defensive line from the offensive side. And then on the defensive side, they've got to get pressure on Cam Miller. If you let Grant, like they did against Graham McDowell, could not get pressure against Montana, he sat back in the pocket and just found receivers all day. And that the defense would be in trouble if Montana State doesn't get pressure. So it's pressure on the quarterback on the defensive side. Then offensively, open up those holes for the running game. One of the best in the entire nation, of course.
And it's almost a standing room only here. It's going to be near a sellout here at Bobcat Stadium. I do think that's going to make a difference today. I think it's going to be a tight one, but the Bobcats have a really good chance of getting that 27th straight win here at home. What say you?
Longest home winning streak. They don't lose at home. They don't lose at home. The last time I did this with Sean, of course, on camera in the pregame show, probably one of my worst takes ever. But we're going to do it again. We got confidence in this team. Montana State pulls off the tight victory. We're going to make it 41-38. Really, really tight. Really tight.
Like
oh, yeah.
Some fireworks. All right, you heard it from Austin. Fireworks here at Bobcat Stadium. Kickoff at 1 o'clock. We'll be with you throughout the day on nonstoplocal.com, providing updates from a great matchup between the Bobcats and the Bison. Back to you.